Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Deep State. I am your host, Alex Newman, senior editor at the New American Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, we talk a lot about the deep state on this program. That's why it's called Behind the Deep State. And one of the key organizations that make up what I like to call the deep state behind the deep state is the Bilderberg Group. They meet every year in exotic places. This year, they met in Stockholm just very recently. And Stockholm is my former stomping ground, lived there for a long time. But I was not there for this one, unfortunately. I was stuck in the United States for some other things. But we're joined today by an expert on all things globalism, UN, sustainable development, and, of course, Bilderberg, who was in Stockholm for this. His name is Jakob Nordengard, or Jacob Nordengard, I think you would say it in English. He is a Swedish academic. He has done a lot of work exposing the UN agenda. He's got a PhD in technology and social change. He's a lecturer, he's a researcher, he's got a master's of social science, a master of social science in culture and media production. He's written 7 books, and we've interviewed him before on some of these books. He's got some really good stuff, including one on the Rockefellers that is phenomenally important. He has lectured at a bunch of different universities across Sweden, and he does music too. He's actually a leader of a band, he sings, and does all kinds of really interesting stuff. A fascinating individual. Jacob, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an honor and a pleasure. Jakob, you were in Stockholm for the Bilderberg Group this year. A lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers don't know much about the Bilderberg Group, so let's just start at the beginning. What is Bilderberg and why should people care?
Well, the Bilderberg Group was founded in 1954 by Polish nobleman and called Josef Ratzinger, and also Prince Bernhard from the Netherlands. And we also find the Rockefellers involved in the setup of this kind of organizations or a discussion club that they wanted to call themselves. And the Bilderbergers is a very, very important forum to discuss topics on the world scene or things that later will evolve into things that's happening for real. In the beginning, it was a lot about European integration, and we discussed the development of the Euro system and so on. So, and also during the 70s, we had also a meeting in Sweden, actually, Saltsjöbaden, outside of Stockholm. We discussed the oil crisis before the oil crisis happened in the early 70s. So a very, very important forum where the elites of the world are gathering. The elites from Western Europe and North America, that is. And the people mainly behind the banking systems of the world, the big guys in the corporations, and all these people, and they invite guests like politicians, the ones that are making policy happening in their parliaments and countries. So very, very important forum, and also connected to other organizations like the Trilateral Commission, founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller, and it was kind of an offshoot from the Bilderberg Group because they wanted to have another country involved in the globalization process, because that's what it's about also. With we can say that they are after forming the idea of a new world order for the world. So very, very important, and have been going on since the 50s.
Yep. Yeah. Every year they meet, and about 120 to 150 of the most powerful people in the world. And for many years, it was just a conspiracy theory. If you talked about Bilderberg, you're wearing a tinfoil hat. Now they have a website, of course. They put out a very brief press statement. I want to talk specifically about the Swedish one before we get into some of the topics of conversation. Obviously, some of the big players, the Wallenbergs, huge economic dynasty in Sweden. They control a lot of banks. They control, you said in one of your articles, about 40% of the Swedish stock market. They help lead the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise, and actually from my time living in Sweden, I know a lot of the folks over at the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise. A lot of them are nice enough people, but there's very powerful families in Sweden. You mentioned SEB Bank, which in reading the incredibly important book, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, about how Western banks financed the Bolshevik Revolution, the predecessor of SEB was actually involved in funneling a bunch of money to the Bolsheviks. So fascinating story there. Jacob, talk to us about the Swedish Bilderberg meeting, the meeting that took place this year in Stockholm. Was there anything unique about it? What came out in the news there? I know there were some American officials, but a lot less high-ranking executive branch officials than is typical. Maybe that has to do with Trump being in power. But what are the takeaways from this particular edition of the Bilderberg meeting?
Well, it was very interesting. Just a couple of weeks before the meeting, we had news about the Wallenberg family. It was primetime television. The patriarch of a family, Jacob Wallenberg, was interviewed about the family's influence on everything in Sweden. It was very open, and also the influence that they have on our leading politicians. Mm-hmm. So that was a kind of a precursor before this meeting, because a lot of media attention was on the meeting, actually, and they had it in the main news as well. The big newspapers wrote about it. At first, the thing is, we had a leak first, but we discussed. There's someone that has booked the Grand Hotel, Central Hotel in Stockholm. Who could it be? There was a lot of speculations, rumors, and discussions in newspapers about it for a couple of days. But we knew, of course, everyone that's in the alternative sphere and has any knowledge of this from before knew that it would be in Stockholm, because we had knew for half a year. But the newspaper, that's okay. It's the Bilderberg meeting, and finally there was someone that admitted it was that, and then they had a kind of big thing about it, actually, in media, and discussed the involvement. They also mentioned that our prime minister would go to this meeting and everything. So it was kind of strange as well. It was like they wanted actually to I think of the Wallenbergs, that they actually wanted to tell the Swedish people that okay, so you know. We run things in this country. So it was very strange, and also when we come to the meeting, it was it was kind of secret, because it took a long time. I think previous meetings they have actually had the press release out for 1 or 2 weeks before. Something like that, but this time we didn't get a press release until the same morning as the meeting started. And upon reading this, I had actually made a kind of analysis before, because I followed what had been discussed during the Trilateral Commission meeting in Washington in April. And that was a lot about artificial intelligence and geopolitics, and how things are changing on the world scene now. And I said in one of my Substack articles that it will probably be the same topics at Bilderberg, and it was.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of those topics. There were some weird things on the list that they put out. Depopulation. I wonder what that means. Of course, migration. So I want to get into those. But before we do, Jacob, what you just said is really interesting. So the Swedish media offered a lot of coverage of Bilderberg. That's very unusual, although it seems to be becoming more normal. And in one of your Substack posts, and folks, if you're not subscribed to Jacob's Substack, I think you should be. You can find it at drjacobnordengard.substack.com. It's called the Pharaoh's Chronicles. But Jacob, you mentioned that the Bilderberg meeting in Stockholm was held during the full moon of Lucius Trust's Christ Festival. For the folks out there who don't know, the Lucius Trust used to be called the Lucifer Publishing Company. It was founded by a lady called Alice Bailey, who claimed she was communicating with these spiritual entities that she called ascended masters. And one of her big ideas, or at least the ideas of these spiritual entities, was the idea of the externalization of the hierarchy. That as we got closer to the end game, the hierarchy was going to be externalized and the whole world would be basically inducted into this weird esoteric movement. Jacob, what do you think is the significance of this, if there is significance to it? What does it mean for these people who are involved in the New Age and in the occult? I mean, I think for them it does have profound meaning. What's your take?
Well, my take, as I write also in my book Temple of Solomon, I have a lot of cover this with the Lucius Trust and their aims and their connections to the elites of the world. Because the Lucius Trust actually has been working since the end of the Second World War in 1945 to influence big global meetings. And that has been in the United Nations, of course. But lately, during the maybe 15 last years, they have also been involved in trying to spiritually influence the World Economic Forum, the Davos, and if you go into what they write on their web page, the Lucius Trust, when they describe the hierarchy, they described it as kind of how business operates. That's the kind of hierarchy, and so it's very, very connected to this. And then it's like you have the New Age people unaware, of course, of these connections, because Lucius Trust also have their offices right at the United Nations. And they had an office at the Wall Street in New York. They have one office in London, just outside Westminster, and also in Geneva. Right to the kind of the power centers of the world with finance, banking, and political power as well. So it's like they have this movement out of the Lucius Trust. They have inspired a lot of the New Age thinking we have today. So we have people coming together in the New Age communities and thinking about one world, one family, oneness. That's important topics. And as I see it, it's like they are using the energy from these people. I actually believe that they believe themselves that this is a power they can use to really influence the direction of the world. Because if you go into the writings of Lucius Trust as well, Alice Bailey and her ascended master that talked to her, Javal Kool,
right.
They had outlined a plan for the world called the Plan. And that ends with forming of a new world order. So she talked about it in the book Externalization of a Hierarchy from 1957. About she was actually deceased in 1957. It was released after her death, but anyway, and but the material was published as newsletters during the Second World War. And there was this plan forming a new world order. Every nations would be coming together for this and forming a society based on right human relations.
Yep.
And
it's fascinating stuff. I've got some of her books too. Education in the New Age. She talks about basically directing evolution, creating a new species, bringing about not just a world government, world federation, she calls it, but a world brain. I mean, some of the stuff is just bonkers to normal people. You read this and you're like, where does this stuff come from? But as you mentioned, Jacob, she had influence at the highest levels of political power, economic power, and that continues through today with the involvement of the United Nations. In fact, the guy who wrote the UN's World Core Curriculum said he bases his ideas on education and philosophy on the teachings of Alice Bailey and this so-called ascended master. What's standing in the way, by the way, folks, is what she calls the great heresy of separateness. So, you don't want to participate. You're part of the problem. Jacob, I want to go to some of the people and things that were discussed at this episode of the Bilderberg meeting. You've got a relatively new post on this at your Substack, June 22nd, about AI, the AI-powered war machine. So I want to talk about that, but just before we get to the AI-powered war machine, I noticed depopulation on the list of things they were talking about, and I couldn't help but say, wow, that looks important. What do you make of that? What do they mean by depopulation?
Yes, what I think, I think it's about Gaza, and they want to get rid of the Palestinians, of course. So, and they have to discuss this, how we are going to do it. That's my take on it. I don't know if it will be that way, because we can only speculate about this. But I think it's probable that it's about Gaza and probably also the West Bank. Because if we see a wider conflict, that could be the case. We're getting rid of the people. That could be a problem in a more a larger war theater in the Middle East. And when we have this kind of what they discussed also, the authoritarian axis. So I mean, it's a lot of discussions of war, and in a greater war there will be migration, there will be depopulation, because I mean it can also be what war does with areas. It can be, I mean, in war a lot of people die in war, so I think, and if you look into what they discussed, it's all about war.
Yeah,
everything is about war.
So I want to get into this now, AI-powered warfare. And you're right, the Israeli government has talked about the possibility of maybe relocating the population of Gaza. They, of course, withdrew from Gaza. They kicked all the Jews out back about 20 years ago. And then Hamas came to power, and it's just been a constant source of tension. And it seems like the Trump administration, at least for a little while, was flirting with that idea. It'd be interesting to see what happens with that. I know the Egyptians and most of the other Arab countries have flatly refused to take the population of Gaza. So it's quite a predicament for everybody involved. But now we've got the 12-day war. Right, the bombing of Iran, the U.S. government now getting involved in this, and your layest post on Bilderberg is this idea of the AI-powered war machine. And you look at some of the people who showed up at Bilderberg. You've got Palantir CEO. You've got Peter Thiel, who's of course a regular at these things. Talk to us about this AI-powered war machine. What do you think it means with this conflict now emerging with Iran? Are they going to try to do a third world war? And how does Bilderberg and the broader global plan fit into all this?
Yes, I think, I mean, we are in sort of already in a world war. But it's not official yet. But everything is in that direction. And if you look into the participants at Bilderberg, there were a lot of, you have a defense industry. You have all these people. And there are people involved with the new emerging technologies and AI warfare. And Peter Thiel, as you mentioned, with Palantir, they have already been involved in Israel and Gaza, and then using their technologies to find the enemy through analyzing data from social media and so on. So they are already involved in this, and everything that happened at Bilderberg, we had all these people. We had Mark Rutte, the boss of NATO now, and his general of staff, I think, was at the meeting as well. And we also have some American generals, and one general and an admiral at the meeting. And just after this, we had the G7 meeting in Canada, further discussing these topics, and now today we had the NATO summit in The Hague in the Netherlands, and the same people. Rutte was there, of course, and in Stockholm we had also King Willem of the Netherlands. He was at the Bilderberg meeting. They are always involved, the Dutch royals in Bilderberg, historically since 1954, and he was the host in The Hague for the leaders and everything. So and one thing that came out of this with the 12-day war was also that it secured the 5% of the budget for that the NATO countries has to live up to, and that Donald Trump was demanded in January already. They have to pay. Europe have to pay, and now with the war in the background, the Friday 13th attack, and then the Donald Trump's bombs the night to the 22nd June. It was all about this, and then a NATO meeting just after, where everybody agrees, and you also get the right support from people in the countries. But anyway, I think this time they have really doing it all in the open. It's like as this with externalization of a hierarchy. They are working in the open, and they are making these deals. We have AI industry, we have other parts of the defense industry involved in Bilderberg, and then coming to the NATO summit, and they get the money and they get the contracts. It's a huge amount now. And I guess they very want to use it, because this is the another stage. They set the scene for the next part of this drama.
Yep. Yeah, Robert Welch, the founder of the John Birch Society, explained that as they got closer to the end goal of this totalitarian one-world system, they'd be doing the equivalent of running down the streets naked. And more and more, they're just doing it out in the open. Like you said, they met at the Grand Hotel right there in central Stockholm. I mean, you can't miss it. It's a key part of the landscape. And more and more, we're seeing these people just coming out of the closet and talking about these things so openly. Jacob, in Sweden it was interesting because you had not just the Prime Minister showing up, Ulf Kristersson, but also the head of the opposition showing up at Bilderberg. So it seems like you turn one way, Bilderberg's in charge. You turn the other way, Bilderberg's in charge. It's like you can't escape. Bilderberg is going to be in charge ever. They're going to run the media, etc. What should normal people who are concerned about this be doing? We've only got a few minutes left, but what's the takeaway for people who don't want the world governed by AI war machine, New World Order, Alice Bailey, Lucius Trust weirdos?
I think awareness is that's a key to actually, and now they have done it themselves. but it's like they think they are they are rulers and they can do whatever they like now. But I don't think, and they have media to entertain us all the time to not think. But so it's like they think they can actually get away with it. But I think it's important to just discuss and talk to other people, neighbors, and everything, and just to because it's such a big illusion, everything. With how this and how it's working, and so it's we really have to, and we have also, of course, this new excellent movie, this documentary by Oracle. I think that's a good movie to share with people, that explains a lot about the agenda and what we are trying to achieve. The more people that know about it, the harder it is to implement it in the end. And that's one of the things also with an agenda like this, when we had been secret for so long. It's easier when it's secret. It's easier in the beginning. It's a lot harder in the end to actually implement it, because it gets visible, and suddenly everybody, what? We can see it now. So it's just a matter of time, I think.
A matter of time before what? Before they're stopped?
Before enough people understand, and that's why they are in a hurry, and that's why we soon are in a more serious war situation, I think, because they have to do it in that way, but they expose everything at the same time. So it's they have one chance to lock us in the cage.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That movie, Agenda, was very, very good. It's an excellent primer for the folks who, maybe your neighbors who've been watching too much CNN, don't really know what's going on. Yeah. It's a really good introduction to some of the problems we're facing. Of course, it doesn't get into the esoteric side of this, which Dr. Jakob Nordengard covers in his book, Temple of Solomon. But Jacob, really appreciate you coming on the program today. Thank you. Your Substack is the Pharaoh's Chronicles. People can find it at drjacobnordengard.com or .substack.com. Your books are available on your website. How else can people follow you in the last 20 seconds we've got?
Well, you can find me on Substack as well, and of course I have my webpage, jacobnordengard.se. You can find links to everything, my work, YouTube and so on that.
Very good. Yeah. Jacob Nordengard, thank you very much for joining us today. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Share this out with other people. Get informed, get involved. Go to thenewamerican.com. And until next time, God bless you all.
Have you heard the latest from the United Nations? They're telling us to eat bugs. They say that it's going to help save the planet. They're even developing a list of bugs for us to eat and regulating how they're going to bring them to us. I don't know about you, but I am not eating bugs. To learn more about what the United Nations has planned for you, visit thenewamerican.com to subscribe and get 25% off the cover price.